simultaneous to the I-140. Again, another thing just to keep in the back of your mind. You don't have to totally understand that because we're talking about HLs and Bs today mostly. But the application form to fill out for your final stage of the green card process is called adjustment of status, or I-140. And that's the final stage of your green card process. If you don't want to do adjustment of status in the United States, you don't want them to change your immigration status and make you a permanent resident while you're in the U.S., you can apply for your immigration change in your green card at a U.S. consulate, and we call that consular processing, another term that you should know. So in order to be qualified for adjustment of status in the United States, you have to show that you were legally admitted to the U.S. You can't swim there, you can't climb a mountain and get there, you have to enter legally. Except for certain exceptions, which don't apply to the majority of the people that you work with because they all come legally. You also must show that an immigrant visa number is available, and that has to do with the priority date structure that we talked about earlier. Okay. So once a person gets to the U.S., they have to maintain their status in order to successfully apply for the green card. They have to show that they're admissible, which means that they can't have any seriously negative factors outweighing the immigration benefit they're looking for. So if they had one crime, maybe one drunk driving or something like that, which is kind of serious in the U.S., but they give you usually one or two maybe breaks if they're small crimes. If you make a big crime, you've got to hire someone like me to go and try to fix that because it's difficult. You won't run into too many people that get these, but maybe some they come to U.S. and they start to realize, hey, it's fun here. They want to drink something or do whatever, and the next thing you know, now we're talking about inadmissibility and problems. So generally you'll have to undergo a medical exam to get your green card. Not a big deal. Just they'll vaccinate you for things if you never have records of your vaccinations. So incidentally, if you do get vaccinated, keep a record because you won't have to get that shot again later. Costs money too. You'll be fingerprinted, so FBI will check your background, and also they check against Interpol and things like that, so that they try to find out if you've ever done anything anywhere that would be bad. And incidentally, if you have a name that is common to maybe like Al-Qaeda or something like that, you have some name that's just unfortunately matches the name of some bad person out there, you might wait for your green card a long time. Even for your H-1B or other visa, if your name is matching a database that they have for suspected people who are involved in terrorism, you might wait a long time to get that visa. Some of you probably have experience watching your core employees suffer through that and the pain it can cause, and there's really not a lot you can do to try to advance that. But anyway, it's one of the big problems we face. When you apply for adjustment of status, you're in the final stage of your green card, you can apply for interim benefits. One of those is to apply for a work permit and the other is a travel document. Okay? The work permit is called EAD. We talked about that earlier, Employment Authorization Document, and that lets you work during the period while your adjustment of status is pending. Now, you can also work under your H-1B at that time if you have one, or an L-1 visa, not a B-1. Okay? Nobody in a B-1 status should be working, period. So that's something that we'll talk about later too. But work permit is a good thing to have because if something happens to your H-1B, it's nice to fall back on that EAD. It's good to have. It's like wearing a belt and suspenders. Okay? Nobody wants their pants to fall down in front of immigration, right? So you wear your H-1B and your EAD, and you're safe. Same thing would be true with a travel permit or advance parole. Okay, this is a word again you should know. You'll hear it over and over, advance parole. What the heck is that? What does that mean? Parole is somebody who goes to jail and comes out, or where do you hear that? It has to do with traveling and being allowed into the United States for a limited period of time while your green card is being processed. If you have an H-1 or L-1 visa, you can travel in and out of the U.S. with that H or L visa while the green card is processing, but not under any other visa category, only H or L. So if people want to travel while they're in the green card process, you got to warn them. Make sure you have a valid visa or advance parole. we're about ready to enter phase 2 of the training. It'll be one visa. Any questions or thoughts at this point?
You were saying about this particular names that could create a problem.
Yes.
I've experienced people who have actually gone to certain countries, these other countries, and come back and apply for the visa and they had problems. And even the looks, you would have from the long beard and all that, that there are some problems. Any thoughts on that?
I've heard of things like that where, it's hard to say what the government is monitoring right now. Entries to countries, you're supposed to declare, I've been to, recently I've been to Iraq, or I've been to Kuwait, or I've been to some other place in your visa application. That will often trigger a more serious review of the application. So, should you lie and say you've never been? No. But maybe you could support your application with some additional documentation when you submit it. I think that might be a good idea. That would explain what you were doing in that place. If it was for work, you might give some other kind of work-related information, an assignment, maybe a work order or something. I went for this purpose, here's my application I submitted to the consulate. Something to help support the application so they don't red flag it as quickly. Might help. Might not, probably, because they're just going to give you a bad time if you've been to Kuwait or somewhere recently. Kuwait's a nice place. Maybe somewhere else like Syria. It's going to be tough. Yeah.
While the green card is in process, as you stated that you can travel into US on an H or M visa. Is it restricted on a B visa?
Yes. If you're in the green card process and you leave the US and you're not under H or L visa, they assume that you abandon your application. Okay?
I can get you.
If you're in the US
Right.
and you don't have H or L,
Right.
you're in the green card, your final stage of green card. If you leave, the application is over. Okay?
Even if it's in the query level.
If you're in adjustment of status, the final stage,
Right.
then it's done. You can't leave unless you have H or L visa or advanced parole. Before you leave. You need the approval before you leave, or else they might deny you entry when you come back. Or even if they let you back, later in the green card they might say, hey, you left, or you came back, you didn't have the approval before you left. Sorry, no green card for you. Try again. You can try again, but it just takes so long, it wastes a lot of time. And maybe your status was bad, and it could just open a big can of worms. It's better to consult somebody before you leave if you're in the green card process, just to make sure everything is cool. Okay? Other questions? Good questions? And if your name is matching some list, that's hard. If you're on a list, it is just hard. There's a website developed recently by FBI. You can go to fbi.gov, and it says it will let you make a complaint if your name was matched against somebody who is a terrorist and you're not a terrorist, and you were detained at immigration or you were made to wait 1,000,000 years for your visa. You can complain. What does the complaint do? I don't know. It might be like a voice in the wind to immigration, but then again, maybe in the future it could be on your record somewhere that you're not the bad guy, and it might help you down the road.
Back to his question, normally it's an administrative process which happens to find this kind of thing.
What is it? Say it again.
Normally it's an administrative process which normally the consulate or the embassy puts in when a person is found in this kind of a situation.
Right.
So how long does it take, and does it stop him to get into other kind of a visa?
Usually it would stop him from getting any other visa. In my experience, it stops everything for as long as it takes. For example, if the person is waiting for H-1B visa and their green card becomes current at the same time, and they could enter as a green card holder to the U.S., still, that background check is going to be there at the embassy. And there's like 3 levels of background checks that come. One is usually like a 2-week or less. One is like a 1 to 3 months, and one is 3 to who knows how long. 3 months, it could be more, 6 months or more.